Are you ready? Can Crushers. It don't really get no better than this the podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers. Let's go.
Hey, y'all, this is Sam Houston. I got to tell you, if you want to know the latest in wrestling and what's going on, tune into Can Crushers every time it comes on. I know I will. Later, y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, the Spotlight Edition. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez, and thank you for joining us once again. If you're new, welcome aboard, and I hope you stick along and listen to everything that we produce here on Spotify and Stitcher and iTunes and Google Play. Wherever you're listening to podcasts, we are there. So that's awesome. Like, rate us, and do all that cool stuff. We don't beg, but we just remind you that it really helps our uptick and all of that. This week, no preparation, because I'm kind of in the same boat as this guy. J.B. Stevens is my guest, announcer, commentary, pretty much a jack of trades in the wrestling business. We'll help you tear down a ring. We'll do some, behind the scenes thing. We'll do some promotions for you. Yeah, I like this guy. I'm in the same boat. Done the same thing. So why do anything? Let's just throw some stuff off of each other and say, hey, JB, this is what I did. This is what I did in this chit chat. I do have the normal questions. I want to know his story, and his story is always the number one thing in my book. I love stories, so yeah, we'll get to that, and we'll get to JB. I have to tell you about Collar and Elbow first. Hats, hoodies, tees, sweats, all the cool stuff that Al Snow and the Hooligans have at Collar and Elbow Wrestling brand. When you check out, when you buy all your merch, because they have amazing merch, comfortable. I'm wearing my Macho Man inspired one right now. Head and Al Snow, purple sunglasses, you understand all of it. Worn it forever, and it's been washed a million times. It doesn't matter. It's just awesome material. It's comfortable. It doesn't stretch. It doesn't do any of that. It's just one of my favorite shirts. But after you're done shopping, put in the promo code Can Crushers. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. You'll save 10%. Okay? Also, we have an email. And this is to all wrestlers out there, all talent, all promotions, all referees. You want to be on the show? Drop us a line, cancrusher69@gmail.com. Let me know. We'll get you scheduled. We're booked for a while, but doesn't mean we're booked forever, because we love hearing stories. Use this as a promotional part for yourself, too, to get it out to the masses. So, yeah, come on. We'll chat. We'll hear your story. All right. Here comes Al Snow to tell you more about Collar and Elbow, and then we'll get J.B. Stevens on the line, and we're going to chat wrestling. Sit down, get a beverage, and hold on.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
What's up, guys? It is your girl T Gaines here. I don't know what you're doing at the moment, but my advice to you is to pop open a can and slam some suds with the Can Crushers.
And welcome back to Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Guys, you heard in the intro how excited I was that I didn't have to do notes this week. So I'm excited to talk to announcer, commentator, ring announcer, backstage, just a jack of all trades because I've been there. So I love this that I don't need to do any work today because we're going to be able to shoot stuff off of each other. He's the one, the only, JB Stevens. JB, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing excellent today. How's the weather down in your neck of the woods? We're getting ready for snow up here.
Yeah, it's hot and humid down here. Got that false fall, the fake fall coming on before the real one.
I'm so jealous. You're in Georgia, do you get any snow where you're at during the winter? Because your winter is nothing compared to ours.
Yeah, we rarely get snow down here. The northern parts of the state get it, but down here in the southwest part, we almost never get it.
So jealous. So jealous. Always start stupid as well. Do you have any peach trees? I'm a huge fan of Georgia peaches. Do you have any peach trees in your yard or close to you that maybe we can work out a deal and you can send some peaches up my way?
All I got here is pecan trees. There's peach trees somewhere else.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm not a big fan of pecan. You like pecans?
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah. All right. As I said, announcer, commentator, pretty much jack of all trades, and we'll get to all of that. But I like doing the rewind first. When you were a little JB Stevens, and we'll find out who JB Stevens is here in a minute, but who introduced you to professional wrestling? Mom, Dad, Uncle Joe, Aunt Mary? Who said, hey, JB, you have to watch this?
It was my dad because pretty much he got me into wrestling when I was like 2 or 3 years old. So as long as I remember it, I've been watching it as a fan. And then his dad got him into it when he was young. So it's kind of been a thing passed down.
Yeah, that's exactly mine as well. Started with Grandpa, and then we kind of brought my dad into it because he wasn't a big fan, but he's like, if, my dad and my son are both watching it, I should jump on board because it's quality time across the board, family time for everybody, right?
Yeah, now I'm passing it on to my little sister. I've got her into it by getting her going to the local indie shows with me.
That's awesome. How old is your little sister? Young. You don't have to give an age because that sounds creepish. I'm sorry that even came through, but young little sister.
Yeah, she's 11.
Oh, okay.
She's a little.
Nice. Does she want to follow your footsteps already?
No, she just likes it as a fan right now.
Okay. All right. That's all right. She's still young. You have to pound some more into her head right now, right, JB?
Mm-hmm.
So, who are some of your favorites growing up? We're going to do all the generic questions right off the bat. Who are some of your favorites growing up that you're like, man, I really like so-and-so?
Yeah, when I was little, I used to watch. When I was growing up, it was like 07, 06. So I watched a lot of SmackDown back then. And my favorites were like Rey Mysterio was my absolute all-time favorite when I was little. And then you had the Boogeyman, Undertaker, and Batista. They kind of filled out the rest of my favorite spots.
Wow. Of course, Rey and Undertaker fit in there perfectly because everybody has them on their list without a doubt. The Boogeyman, what made you, because he repulsed so many people, adults to, seniors and everything. What made you say, I love the Boogeyman? I did too, by the way.
Yeah, I have no idea. It was just, I was little and he just kind of looked funny, I guess.
The over-the-topness, maybe. Have you ever eaten a worm?
No.
Okay. Me neither. So, was your goal to get into professional wrestling and be a wrestler at first?
No, when I was little, I remember I had like a fleeting thought one time, like randomly, I thought I can't be a wrestler because I was big, asthmatic. So it was like I thought I could be a commentator or something. And then that was a passing thought that I had like one time when I was real little and never again. Because when I was little, I just wanted to be an author and write stories. And so, but then when I turned 15, then I started wanting to get involved into wrestling as an announcer and all that.
So did you, to jump around, let's go back, like high school, 15-year-old age, and then, who did you follow then? Because you were watching wrestling. If you wanted to be an announcer, you were watching wrestling to listen to Michael Cole and to listen to those people, weren't you?
Yeah, me when I started, at first I didn't want to be a ring announcer and stuff. I had wanted to be a manager, is what I had entered and started training for, which is what I'm still looking to be in the near future. And but like I studied a lot of Paul Heyman and Bobby Heenan, them the announcers. I've honestly never studied ring announcers because it's like I feel like if I studied them, then I would begin to sort of copy them, and I like my own little style, basically.
Yeah, no, and it's good. It's you know this from doing wrestling for how long have you been now? A ring announcer, commentator, and all that. 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I debuted July 17th of last year, 2021.
Okay, so a little more. We'll round 2 years. We'll round. We like rounding because if you figure out like 18 months and everything like that, it's garbage. So about 2 years in the business, and then once you reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast." And I'm like, "Sure, let's do a podcast. I love hearing stories and everything." You sent me your picture. I'll tell you right off the bat, even before reading that you're an announcer and everything, I saw you as Percy Pringle. Do you know that manager? Because
Yeah.
the whole gimmick that you have right now, the purple and the red, I instantly thought he's going to be a manager. He's just doing this as a gig right now. So good.
Yeah, that's basically the whole purpose of the blazer, the purple blazer, was to make me stand out, and as a good way to eventually lead into being a manager. That way, I would have something already that people would recognize me by.
Right, and it is without ruining everything, fourth wall and all of that. Is that kind of in the works right now? Are you doing some training and maybe a bump here and there? Because managers up and around our neck of the woods also have to train as well.
Yeah, I've been training to be a manager since May 15th of last year. Then 2 months later, debut as a ring announcer. But I've been keeping up with the training and stuff, taking the various bumps, learning how to manage wrestlers, cutting the promos and all that, which is I've practiced cutting promos since I started wanting to do it. So it's been like almost 5 years of just mainly cutting promos, and then over a year and a half of taking the bumps and stuff.
Are you doing them in a mirror and everything like we all have back in the day, just yelling at yourself in front of a mirror?
No, I can't really look at myself and do it. I just usually when I'm cutting promos, I'm just walking around and cutting them, and that'll be what I'll do. I'll just walk around and cut it to the air or to other people.
Okay, yeah, that's good. You record some once in a while as well?
Yeah, I've recorded a lot of the videos and stuff. I've recorded promos for videos. I've recorded hype videos for shows and all that stuff.
Yeah. By the way, guys, when we get to the tail's end, because we always do this at the end, social media, make sure you follow him. We talked a little bit before we went on air. He is amazing on social media. Like, he could have a seminar. JB could have a seminar teaching wrestlers how to do social media posts. I'm being 100% honest, JB. And I said this, like, the wrestlers are like, "Hey, I'm on this show in like 2 months." And then you never hear about it again if you follow your favorite wrestler. JB's there. Boom, boom, boom. Listen, I'm going to be here. Follow me. Good. So you have to have a nice following, if people just wanting to come out and see you, right?
Yeah, I have a few people who they come out. Mainly the focus is the wrestlers, because like I try to. Most of what I do, I don't really. Yeah, most of what I do, I'm putting the wrestler stuff out there, sharing their stuff, doing my own stuff. But yeah, I share wrestler stuff a lot more than I have my own, mainly.
Yeah, but you're linked to it then. What I'm saying is I would be the same way, like, "Hey, come out to this event in McKeesport, da-da-da-da-da." They know that I'm going to be there, though. And I'm also encapsulating all the other wrestlers. Kind of the same thing you do. Like, you'll name wrestlers that'll be there, maybe some matches, everything. But that, to the social media audience, then, it puts two and two together. Oh, shit, this is where Mark's going to be, so I should go see him as well. We're always the second thought. We are. I will wave that flag 100%. We're always the second thought. But if it's our post that got you there, it says something for us, right?
Yeah.
So when did you make the, yes, I'm going through with it? I know you were rounding and saying about 2 years. How did you get involved? How was the phone call or did you just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm your ring announcer now"? Where did you go to training? Where are you doing your training?
Well, when I started wanting to do it, I found out about a promotion called SWA down in Pavo, Georgia.
Yep.
And so I started attending their shows in 2018. And like over the course of 3 years, I went pretty much every month, talked to the wrestlers, the ring announcers, referees, pretty much everyone there trying to get in. And eventually I started branching out, going to other indie promotions in the area. And then COVID happened and wiped out. We had like 4 or 5 promotions in this area, and it wiped out to like 2. And then pretty much finally, just before I graduated high school, I got contacted and started training with SWA. And I ring announced for them for from July 17th of last year up until recently. I'm no longer with them now, but because I've done about everything I can really do there short of becoming a manager. So pretty much now I'm training with the Sweat Academy in Albany, Georgia, to finally become a manager. But I'm still doing but yeah, that's pretty much how I did it. Just walked into the shows, talked to people, put my name out there, and tried to get in. Eventually, it worked.
Yeah, it's all about being persistent, and it didn't happen the first time for me either. Walking up and say, "Hey, I'd love the ring announcer." They're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Everybody says that. You just have to show that you're there. You're invested into their program. You're invested into their business, and make the wrestlers know, "Hey, this is who I am. I'm not going to do you dirty. I want to tell you a little." It's a networking thing to get the trust, right?
Yeah, you just have to keep at it. Something I'm always saying is patience and persistence. That's something I've always said.
Yeah, that's great life advice too. You're probably in the last month we've had this whole Rome wasn't built in a day aura here on Can Crushers. Everybody, and patience and persistence goes along with it. It's just been that this whole month of everybody's just like, cool down, do your thing, continue to grind, and you'll get there. And do you feel you're there?
I feel like I still got a little ways to go. I feel like I'm ready to become a manager and transition from primarily announcing to primarily managing. But I feel like in terms of being there, yeah, I'm pretty much just about there in terms of being a manager, I believe.
And let's talk about your commentary a little bit, because we talked about ring announcing. You also do some commentary, play-by-play, and then you do some stuff in the back. Is it all for the same organization, or have you been to... You've named 2 thus far. You don't have to name them all, but I mean, you just do, like I said in the intro, like a jack of all trades. You're willing to do anything for a company, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've also done little referee training as well, to do anything. But yeah, I've done work with multiple promotions. I think about 8 or 9 in total. Places like SWA. I was down in Tampa Bay Pro, which is down in Tampa, Florida, of course. I did a lot of the shows. Some of them that I've done is like, one-offs or occasional shows, like charity shows, like the Wrestling Against Cancer shows and the Solid Rock Championship Wrestling shows. But yeah, I've done work for promotions in like Georgia, Florida, and Alabama so far.
That's good. That's 3 states in 2 years. Sometimes indie wrestlers don't get out of, and this isn't mean, before you come at me, everybody out there listening, this isn't mean. Sometimes indie wrestlers don't get out of the same company in 2 to 5 years. So that's awesome. Congratulations, JB.
Thank you.
You bring up manager a lot, and like I said, I saw that, and you instantly, for me, went to Percy Pringle. Everybody would know him as the pallbearer with The Undertaker, but WC World Class Days, he was Percy Pringle. Where did you get the want to be a manager? I know you brought up Bobby Heenan, but there's got to be more, right?
Yeah, when I decided I wanted to be a manager because, like, I mean, I wanted to get involved in wrestling, but like I knew I can't be a wrestler. It's just not for me. But I knew there's ways I can get involved, and I started taking inspiration from Paul Heyman, Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Paul Ellering, Gary Hart, a lot of managers from various different times. I've studied a lot of, especially the Bobby Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel promos from the AWA.
Sweet. You hit my wheelhouse. Not a lot of people talk about AWA. Territory Days, that was my favorite organization. I loved it. What made you trickle there? Because your AWA was gone before you. Way before you. And I'm not saying it mean, but way before you. AWA was history. How did you find it?
Just YouTube, just YouTube recommendations, because I was watching the different manager videos, and then the videos with Heenan and Bockwinkel would pop up, and then so I would watch them, and pretty much it's just like a whole bunch of YouTube videos that I've watched mainly.
If you could be one of those, who would you really want to, tailor yourself after? Heenan, Cornette, Gary Hart. And I'm not saying steal the whole gimmick, but, take most of it.
I know a lot of people have compared me to they've compared me to Cornette, both positively and negatively in a derogatory way. Like I've had people in comments occasionally be like, look at that Jim Cornette, you green, whatever kind of and then a few hours later they'll delete it because, of course they would, but it'd be kind of funny. But I mean, I would style myself mainly like a little bit after Paul Heyman at first. And I took a lot of inspiration from Bobby Heenan with certain aspects of what I do. But I feel like it's really not going to be a mix. It's going to be like a mix. Instead of one person, you're going to see a little of Heenan, a little of Heyman, a little of Cornette, a little bit of everything really that makes up the JB Stevens manager role eventually.
Yeah, and that's the best thing to do. When I talk to indie stars that are, up and coming, I watch 2 or 3 matches, and I kind of get the whole, this is where I think your attitude is, or this is, so the last one I think I'm like, you're ravishing Rick Rude with the natural Butch Reed, but you move like Seth Rollins. I always throw 3 out there, so I always think 3 is the best. So, as you said, I'm going to continue to push this one down your throat until you say yes, Mark. I'm going to say yes this one. Percy Pringle, Cornette, and Bobby Heenan, I think are 2. But you did say Gary Hart, so I can't knock you on that. But yeah, the Percy Pringle, I don't know why. It's so much in my mind with you. But that's who I'm like, yes, he has to. You've watched him, right?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of his promos, too, from before he was Paul Bearer. And, I've watched a lot of his stuff. That's actually the first time anyone has compared me to him, though, is now.
Yeah, well, thank you. The Cornette, love him or hate him, even if they call you something bad about him, that's got to be a little pat on your back, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows how I like the Midnight Express Cornette. I loved, like Cornette of the last couple years. He's a tough pill to swallow for me. I'll leave it at that.
Well, at the end of the day, I think he knows what he's talking about when it comes to managing stuff. At the end of the day, because at the end of the day, he's like one of the best managers of all time.
But agreed 100%. So that's a little bit about who JB Stevens is or is going to transition to be. Do you have an idea when your first managing gig is going to happen, or it's still kind of in the works?
I believe it might be perhaps by the end of this year, maybe early next year, but it shouldn't be too long. I'm ready for it.
Do you have, wrestling-wise, do you have your eyes set on a little bit of a faction, a Heenan family, so to speak, that you're gonna run with?
Whatever. If I see a group of wrestlers that might look good as a faction, sure.
Nice. I like how you just dodged that question, and you can tell you're definitely in professional wrestling because you didn't answer it. What's your greatest accomplishments right now, being 2 years in the business? Is there one event that you're like, man, this is, for being so young, this is what I'm so happy that I have done?
I don't know if I've had any specific full on accomplishments. I mean, I worked with certain people at certain shows who, people, you'll have indie wrestlers say they worked with this person and that's cool. But, me, I don't really use that as like hey, I worked with this person. But I think the thing I'm proudest of is just how far I've come along personally in terms of my ability to talk to people, in terms of my ability to just say things in general.
Yeah. I loved how you transitioned right where I was going. You brought that you wanted to be an author. Can we rewind again and talk about, the younger days? Were you shy? Were you kind of, I hate the word introvert, but you know where I'm going to go. Were you kind of just like in your own bubble and wrestling has now pushed you out?
Yeah, I was very, very introverted, socially anxious, a lot of things. But 'cause I mean, I was a very rambunctious child, to say the least. And then over the years, being in school, bullying, a number of things just kind of broke me down over time. And it got to where I was less, less out there in general. I was very quiet, very socially. It went from where I didn't want to talk to people to where I was afraid to talk to people. And going to the indie shows and stuff over time, over the course of like 3 years, forcing myself to talk to people, putting myself in situations, has it to where my social anxiety is, basically gone now for the most part.
That's great. Congratulations, because I know that's a tough battle. It really is. I have a nephew that he's big into truck and tractor pulls and shows like this. Like the crowds would really set him off, and he didn't want to go, but he wanted to be there. So we kind of met with somebody that we sat in his pit crew for a little bit, and that kind of opened him up. So it's really good to push yourself. You find your love. Mine is professional wrestling. Yours is professional wrestling. His is whatever. Whatever. Maybe start off little and then sit in the corner and then just slowly build your feet and then look at what we both have done. I have a podcast, I've ring announced, you're ring announcing. You're going to do something that I really want to. I wouldn't mind managing as well, but I really like the nerd stuff backstage. I really do. The interviews and stuff like that. So, yeah. As a wrestling fan, then, and you get your first ring announcing job, let me first ask you this. Did you get the winners right off the bat? Everybody knows wrestling's predetermined. We're not ruining anything. But did you also get the winners along with the match list?
Most of the time, yes. Sometimes I wouldn't, but regardless, I still had to sit there, watch the match, and just in case anything happened, and I had to, just impromptu, this person won.
Yeah. But for me, the first time, JB, I got the very first one. It was I've done a couple where you have to watch the match and pay attention to what the heck's going on. But the very first one, they're like, all right, here's your whole rundown. The circle people are who wins them. That defeated me a little bit. As the wrestling mark that I am, that I'm like, oh man, this is what I'm doing now. I'm like, I know the outcome of this, and I could have played it away in my head so much different. Did you get that a little bit when you had that first list?
Not really. I mean, it was kind of like I knew what to expect going in. I was like, but like there are sometimes, there are those matches that I'll be watching them from ringside, and they'll be very close, and they'll get me full on like, who's going to win this one? They'll get me into it.
Yeah. It's still great. It really is. I'm not knocking anybody, or those are not JB's words. Those are all mine. All right, let's take a little bit of time off as we, got to the start of your career, and we'll take and learn some more stuff about JB here. Off days, when you're not, practicing and doing, stuff for wrestling, what's JB like to do outside? You said you're an author. You want to be an author. You still like to do that?
Yeah, I still sometimes write little stories. I haven't published anything, of course. I had like one little poem published from like when I was in 9th grade in a one of those Apelli, however you pronounce that, Apelli 2018 Student Rising Star contest thing or whatever. But it was like, that's like the only thing I've ever had published. But I still write, and of course also I read a lot, play some games sometimes. I have my regular job outside of wrestling. So yeah.
Video games? Is that what you're a big gamer as well?
Yeah.
What are you playing right now? Because I'm looking for a new game. I'm kind of getting bored.
I don't really game like I used to. I'm not a heavy gamer, with time and stuff. But I started getting into Fortnite. I didn't see the purpose of it at first. It kind of was like, all bread and no meat with that game. But then I started playing. I was like, yeah, I can see why it can be fun. But yeah.
I play. You can tell that I'm a 45-year-old man. I played that with my son for a little bit, and I don't know. There's been a whole era of video games that I don't know. These kids' hands are so damn fast now, JB. Like, he's building stuff and killing me 16 times before I even know what I'm doing. That game is out of my realm. It's too quick for me. I need the slow, steady Call of Duties or like Rifle Hunter or something like that. I can just creep and look. Anything fast like that, nope. I die too many times. It's not fun then.
Yeah, I play a lot of the old games on the Super Nintendo too.
That's my jam. Yeah. I have this thing called the Odroid that's got like 25,000 games on it, and the Super NES is on it. I can play that forever. I love that thing.
Yeah, I used to have a Super Nintendo when I was little, then I gave it away, but I have the mini Nintendo and I hacked it when I got it, put more games on it like Donkey Kong Country 2 from when I was little, and I played some of them sometimes.
That might be the greatest game out there. I will say this right now for everybody. I love Donkey Kong Country 2. I love it. You cannot get bored of playing it.
Oh yeah.
So what else? Some games we don't have to talk shoot job or anything, but just like a relaxing day. Do you do tape study of, managers or announcers or anything like that?
I don't vigorously study it on a regular. I don't like sit down and say, okay, this is an appointed time that I'm going to study. I just, whenever I'm studying it, it might be late at night after the whole day is done, I'll just put on YouTube and then go through like clips for like an hour or two, just studying it and watching it over and over.
Yeah. Yep, that's kind of the best way to find, something that you can put in your arsenal for down the road. Is there one person that you're like really stuck on right now? I know we've brought up Heenan and anybody like that, but is there anybody, maybe a different one like Captain Lou? I don't know why he popped in my head, but somebody like that's popped up recently?
Not really. I haven't had too much time lately. Things are getting even busier now, but
yeah,
pretty much at the moment. But probably every so often I'll branch out and come across something else that I'll watch a lot of.
Okay. All right, let's do the 3 stupid would you rather, because Can't Crush Your Nation calls them stupid, but I will continue to do them all the time because it just it's a little bit of fun in the show. The would you rathers. Would you rather announce one WrestleMania main event in your life and then you're done with WWE, or be able to announce on every WrestleMania here on out?
I would say every WrestleMania here on out.
Yeah, because Al Snow says if you're on TV, you're getting money, you're selling yourself. If it's a one and done thing, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather work with, now I'll switch to the commentary side, would you rather work with Corey Graves calling matches or Renee Paquette?
Probably Renee.
Why?
Her style is a little more easier to flow along with, I think, than the Corey Graves style, because I like, in commentary, usually I'm very not the full-on high energy, always this, that, and the other, the jabs and whatnot. I'll just pretty much be, kind of laid back going throughout it and making little remarks every so often.
Are you heelish on commentary, or are you, straight line?
Pretty much just straight line.
Okay.
Just fake,
And final, would you rather, as it might pertain to being a manager in the long haul, but would you rather become the GM of AEW or WWE? And this is a long-term gig.
I'd say AEW.
And why? You can't just give me one-word answers. Come on, JB. You talk for a living.
Because usually there's just, a lot of different stuff that could be done, change, the women's the women's roster, the trios. There's a lot of interesting thing that could be done with the trios that they have now, and a lot of other stuff.
So let's stick and stay on wrestling today. What is some of your favorite stuff that's going on? Because you still watch wrestling. You still kind of make time, at least, highlights or videos or whatever, to watch some of the stuff through all WWE, AEW, Impact, whatever you watch. You make time. What's some of the favorite things you see that you like right now?
Well, I know the whole. I don't know if I can say support. Well, it's been a little over a week, but the Bray Wyatt return.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I saw the clip of it on YouTube, and it was, it looked good. I liked how he came back, and then his promo on SmackDown after that. So that was cool.
That might be, and I'm going to date myself, that might be one of the greatest comebacks ever. We really have had a lot of cool ones, but the only thing I was mad about was I hate the QR codes. I'm not doing that extra step. I really am not. To find out that it's something that I can't figure out because concussions has ruined my head. I'm not going to do that extra step, but everything that they did leading up to it was amazing. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
How about AEW? What do you like going on over there right now? Do you like the scrums going on in the back? I'm kidding.
I think the main thing that I like about the AEW stuff right now is the whole thing with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. I like their whole scissoring thing that they have. It's just so funny to me the way they do it.
I agreed. Now, to jump backwards too, what are some storylines that really got you invested in wrestling? And I don't want to hear the big ones, and they may be, but we get The Rock and Stone Cold, we get this, we get that. There's off ones as well that already, really get people invested in it. Do you have any off ones that are like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one, but that meant something to me?
I don't know if there's any that I like that could be called off. I don't know for certain. I know that some of my favorite ones have been like the whole HBK and Undertaker saga from like Mania 25 to 26. Daniel Bryan's rise up to Mania 30. The whole in AEW, the whole Hangman. From day one where they had him against Jericho, and then all the way up to where they had him against finally winning the belt against Omega. But mainly the storylines, that I like is just the kinds where it's the people rising up over time. It's like the slow build, the slow burn, and then that big payoff at the end.
Long-term booking is what you enjoy then. So you're an old soul as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really where it's at least for me in professional wrestling. I love long-term with twists and turns into it. No knock on WWE, but prior to Triple H getting it, there was just so much turnover in the storylines. I didn't know what was going on. I never tuned out. I continued to watch. But I'm like, man, these storylines have no meat and potatoes to them. That's what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something when you become a manager and you get your faction or your group or your guy or whatever, is that kind of in your cards? Is that what you'd like to do as, maybe an NWO takeover? That just popped in my head. That you'd like to have a faction that slowly did something like that?
I would like, something, that would be cool, provided it didn't grow too large or whatnot and get too
900 people. Yeah.
But in general, I like how, I'll go out there and eventually we'll like, the faction, get it where the crowd, because, as the manager, the job is to get the heat on the wrestler and then, get it on yourself, transfer to the wrestler. And what I like, the long-term storyline, go over time and eventually finally get my comeuppance in the end, get our comeuppance.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about wrestling. You have the good guys, you got the bad guys. Everyone wants to see the bad guys lose. You can't have the bad guys win forever because it just loses interest eventually.
Yeah. But one time it would be all right if a bad guy would win a long-term storyline. One time. I'm on gear with you. You're going to get to ask this all the time. What is your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers then?
I'd say Cena, of course, he's like one of because you could say that he's like the one who took wrestling mainstream again,
Yep.
after the initial, 80s boom. Because, there's, you have The Rock and all them as actors. But I think like Cena in general because I think more people probably know who John Cena is than who The Rock is. They know who Dwayne Johnson is, but they might not know exactly who The Rock is.
Agreed.
Then you have, like if we're going international, I could go international, like El Santo, Rico Dozan. I'm probably mispronouncing that name, but anyway,
It's actually the same way I say it. So yeah, it's okay. I know what you mean.
And fourth one would be like perhaps going way, way, way back would be like Hackenschmidt.
Wow.
As like a fourth, the general, like the first undisputed champion in general. Because like they had he was like the big star back then in the early 1900s.
Yeah. So you do your due diligence. You just threw that out there. And what is your tape study of like? I mean, you're bringing Hackenschmidt up, and I'm like, damn, I didn't know you knew who he was. So how far do you go back? Well, clearly to him, but
I go back pretty much just as far as I can. Most of what I read a lot of the Wikipedia articles and all that stuff. Go back in the old articles. You see like newspaper articles on the internet and whatnot. But like I don't really study the tape of matches in general. But I've seen some of the stuff from way back then. The old black and white tapes and stuff.
What is your go-to era then?
My go-to era is like the 70s, the 80s. Stuff like Terry Funk, like the whole Terry Funk against Ric Flair. I watched that promo a lot. The one where he's like, "I had a dream," the zine pulling up and all that.
So the territories then, it will encapsulate them. The territories then, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wish wrestling, and I think it has kind of a little bit gotten to the territories, but especially, and I'm going to tout AEW for this, for allowing their workers to work in like their hometown. Like where I'm at around the Pittsburgh area, Britt and Wardlow show up every once in a while, which is really cool because back in the day, once they were signed, you'd never see them again. Done. You're only seeing them on TV. I like that AEW allows that, and to me, that's bringing kind of the territories back around in a lesser like way. You're not. I don't think you're going to see Mox defending the title in Pittsburgh unless AEW is there, or stuff like that. I personally, and I'll let you weigh in on this, I think WWE needs to do that and allow them to do some more indie shows like that because it might be hurting. Because I don't know, John Cena, we're going to throw that name out, not that he's wrestling a lot in it, come to Georgia right now and wrestle in your hometown. That would make that promotion then legit. Not that it's not legit. Don't think I'm knocking it. But that would like, holy shit, WWE knows our promotion's out there. That's cool. I think more of that needs done. What do you think?
I think, yeah, it would be cool to see that kind of stuff happen. But like in general, there's always the viewpoint that it might lessen the value of the wrestler in terms of like the bigger promotion in the eyes of them. But I mean, it would be an interesting thing to see, that.
Yeah. I'd always love the territories come back around, have the traveling world champion and stuff like that. Would it? The day and age, I don't know. Everything has changed in life. So 2 years into the business, okay? Still a baby in the business. But can you look back when Dad showed you wrestling and you're watching it with him? Can you look back, hovering over yourself and say, damn, I did it. I made it. I'm in professional wrestling?
I guess so.
No chills or anything. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I did it. You don't get any cool vibes over that because I'm jealous for you. That's cool.
Yes, it's cool, over time and but I mean, honestly, over the last year, the chills and all that's kind of faded for me a little bit. But I mean, I still have the little bit of nervousness before going out and all that. But like, it's a cool thought, to think back to when I was little, and now I'm doing something that I saw on TV. So
You brought up the nerves. You get them backstage, and then once you plow through that curtain, they're gone, right? It's just like, I'm on my game now.
yeah, it's the curtain effect. Pretty much the way it is with me. Like I remember the first time I rang announced, I was like nervous literally the whole day leading up to the show, all the way up till right the moment I went through the curtain. And then after I got that first bit of announcing done, it was like the nerves were gone for the rest of the show, just about. I was less jittery. And that's pretty much how it is now.
Yeah, you get that little bit of swagger in your back pocket that you can walk with that little double step, and you know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling continues to change. This is probably the toughest or hardest hitting question I have. But wrestling continues to change, and I feel it is changing for the better. But there's still some stigmas around professional wrestling, and I'm sure you got a list of them in your head. If you could wave, this magic wand, what does still need changed drastically in professional wrestling, though?
Honestly, I'm not sure, because there's all kinds of little things that, that can be changed and all that. But, like, honestly, I honestly don't know how to answer that question, because there's stuff that could be changed, but at the end of the day, it's going to keep on evolving. It's going to keep on changing the different styles and all that. I don't really have any gripes against the styles and all that now.
Okay, that's great. I love your viewpoint that it does continue to evolve, and it is getting better for an all exclusive type of thing, or I was one, and I'll mention this real quick. When it was pandemic time and everything was shut down, I'm a huge advocate for women's wrestling. I really am. I think it was Britt and Rosa, Sasha, Bailey, Asuka that carried us through the pandemic. The guys were just like doing normal things. The women were really upping their game, and I'm like, yeah, this is what's going to carry us during this down pandemic time. And they killed it, and they're still building it more and more. That I'm like, damn, I'm shocked that this is happening, but good. You brought up comeuppance, and the women are finally, for me, getting their comeuppance, and they've deserved it for so long.
Yeah, they're getting what they've needed. They're getting more of a spotlight on women's wrestling, more of a, more attention to it, more time for it in certain places. And in general, down here in the Southeast, we also have various. An interesting thing about women's wrestling down here in the Southeast, I don't know about, the rest of the country's indie scene completely, but down here, you'll have promotions where it's like you'll have one woman on the roster, and, she'll be competing against like the men. Usually it's like an integrated roster, but it'll still be called a women's division, because every so often they'll bring in a woman to come in and face her, bring in another wrestler. And then I think my favorite like women's roster in the Southeast is probably Tampa Bay Pros, because they have the Dream Women's Wrestling thing.
Yep, I heard about that.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see their stuff with their whole how they have their women's division set up.
Yeah, I really like that. I really do. Do you know, just like, your favorites right now, trying to get some emotion out of you, JB, do you know now that you've touched somebody, like somebody in time is going to be look back and you're like, I want to announce like JB, or maybe in a year they're going to be like, I want to be a manager because JB is like, do you get that feeling that you're changing kids, youngsters as well?
Honestly, not really. I know that eventually there might be, for all I know, there might be some kid out there who's seen me in a purple blazer and orange pants announcing or whatever. And he's like, oh, look, he looks funny. I want to do that. But, honestly, I don't really feel it, at the moment.
Okay. It's coming, though. It's coming, because everything you do online, like people are going to be like, oh, my God. I mean, do you get Barney chants, or do you get any bad chants at you because of the purple Like, anytime anybody wears purple up around this area, you get called Barney. Let's just throw that out there.
Yeah, there's always, from day one, there's been comments about the purple blazer and the hair. And I remember I walked through the curtain the first time, and it was like, you need a haircut. And there was somebody else who who called me Joker. Then there was somebody, Harry Potter and Barney. And there's my favorite interaction with the crowd, though, about that. A few months ago, July 16th of this year, I was doing the Southern Summer Showcase show, announcing it. And there was a match. It was Tyler Creed versus Xander Maddox, and it's on YouTube. And I got out there, and normally, I talk to the crowd, jab with them a little. Then I get in the ring and start the introductions. Well, anyway, literally as I was finishing up the jibber jabber, some guy in the crowd, some bald middle-aged white guy says, "Harry Potter." And so I'm like, okay, you picked the right time to do this.
Of course.
So Tyler comes out, Xander comes out. I'm doing Xander's introduction, and he's from Your Mama's Basement is his introduction. So naturally, when I say from your mama's basement, I look dead at the guy in the crowd while doing it. And I even lean towards him, and it's on video. It's so great. It's so funny.
Did he understand then that the jab was right back at him?
I think so.
Yeah. Awesome. Good for you.
It's all in jest. You can't really take anything seriously, but it's all fun.
So I bring up dream matches, and I want to know, and I've kind of added more as we continue to talk to this. As the announcer, okay, what would be your dream match to announce? And it can go anywhere in history, 1900s to, the future. What match would be your coup de grace to announce?
Honestly, I'm going to talk about a couple of local indie people I would like to announce.
No, that's cool. I love when you give them the pat on the back, because everybody knows who the hell Randy Orton, John Cena, Ric Flair, and all those people are.
Yeah, that's why I don't really have much big time dream matches, but on the local indie, I talked about it before, the T Gaines versus Tiny Tonally. Because that match actually did happen recently, I think for the first time, but it would be cool to announce it because T Gaines, she has the whole Quadzilla, and I always get to yell Quadzilla as if it's really Godzilla in the ring, and it's so fun. And then you have the suplex queen, Tiny Tonally, and I like to do a T motion with T Gaines, with my hand in the air as I'm doing it. And then, you have Kelly Clark versus Tyler Creed. That would be an Mr. Personality versus the Future and all that. One more that I would like to announce would be a tag match. The Southern Stretching Crew versus Ryan and Boss Hoss, Dax X. But they, it would be, because it's interesting because with their introductions, I've done each of their introductions before. I've done each of those people's introductions before, but it would be an interesting thing to have them against each other.
Yeah, so you can really mark out yourself in the ring.
Yeah, because it's so fun doing certain people's introductions.
Yeah, that T Gaines match I actually watched during lunch today because you posted it, and I'm like, oh, I want to watch a T match. We've had her on the show. She's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I watched that. It was a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's twist this then, and manager-wise, 4 is always the number for me because I will say the greatest faction was the 4 Horsemen. I'm that guy. I love the 4 Horsemen, everything they did, the different personalities. So when you become a manager, I want you to name 4 wrestlers you would love to manage. And then you have to come up with a stable name too, by the way, on the spot.
At
least I gave you some warning.
Yeah. Let me see. That's something I actually hadn't thought too much about, a whole stable before. These are all people. These are all good guys here that I'm naming. But the idea, the Southern Assassin Ryan James, Mr. Personality Kelly Clark, Quadzilla T Gaines, and special 4th one, Hood Star Dark Rage. We'll go with that. The idea, Ryan, Kelly, and T Gaines, they're all baby faces. They're all good.
Right.
The idea, me and Rage turn them against the crowd. The crowd telling them the crowd doesn't care about them, telling them that, like the crowd is cheering them and they don't mean it, getting them to doubt themselves and using their weakness against them to recruit them. And the name, just to go old school and take a book out of the Heenan page, the Stevens family. Let's just go with that.
Yeah. See, it was simple and easy.
It would be different if it was real, but
it may be. Stop. You have to talk yourself into it, JB.
Mm-hmm.
You have to talk yourself into it. All right, so moving forward, 2022 is coming to an end here, but 2023 is right around the corner. What are your goals for this next, 14 months or so?
Over next year, I would really like to, for starters, debut as a manager, and then, of course, branch out into other states, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, work for Deadlock Pro, the promotion up in North Carolina, run by the whole, New Legacy Inc. people and all them, Johnny. I don't know if you watch their videos.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
But yes, that would be a promotion I'd like to work for down there. And of course, eventually get an opportunity perhaps on a bigger show like NWA, because I really like their setup. That's a promotion I would like to work for, would be like NWA, National Wrestling Alliance.
I love them. Yeah,
I like how their setup is, with the studio audience, the old school feel.
Agreed. I had Jared Fritz on, referee from NWA, a little while back, and yeah, he is amazing. I love the NWA because it brings me back to my childhood, the 605 with Tony Schiavone and David Crockett, and the whole. We brought up so many names: the Cornette, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, Dusty, and all those guys. That was wrestling to me. Like, we didn't get WWE that much up here at that time, so all I got was NWA. It took me until, like, middle school by the time we got WWF at that time because of the cable situation and everything. So, yeah. I grew up NWA. I will always bleed on NWA. I love everything they do, from Aldis down to Murdoch, and I'm not going to name the whole roster, but yeah, I love everything. I just wish they weren't on Fight. I wish they had their own show, like national TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it is down here. This area is like historic NWA territory back in the day, back in the territory days, and then it went to like WCW area. Now it's like we get a house show every now and then. But
do you still attend events when you're not doing things? Like NWA pops up, are you going to go to that, or are you continuously booked here until Kingdom Come?
Pretty much, I like to keep it light, because I did the whole weekend after weekend thing for a little while, and I did the whole 2-day trips for a couple of times. It's just it's a lot, but I like to keep it loose a little bit every now and then. But whenever I'm free, if there's a show come up, then usually sometimes I'll go to it, sometimes I won't. If it's an NWA show, I would probably, be like, oh yeah, let's go. But yeah.
All right, JB, give us your socials and, where you're going to be so people can follow you and, all of that good stuff. And do you have any merch in case anybody wants to buy stuff? I know you're not a manager yet, but you can start selling stuff just to make some more money. Do you have anything like that?
No, I don't really have any merch right now.
Okay, so no merch, but give us your socials then and your next couple upcoming shows.
Well, on Facebook, I'm at ASC JB Stevens, or just type in JB Stevens. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at ASC_JB Stevens. It's the same handle for those. And the next show I'm going to be on, I'm supposed to be in Gadsden, Alabama for Spartan Pro Wrestling on October 29th. And then, of course, on Saturday, November the 5th, the first Saturday in November, I'm going to be in Thomas County, Thomasville, Georgia, at the Thomas County Middle School for Solid Rock Championship Wrestling. But, yeah, that's the next upcoming stuff that I've got.
Yeah, guys, and as I said during the interview, make sure you follow him. If you're going to follow JB, he's going to tell you where he's going to be at. He's also going to promote every event that he's going to be around because he's a hell of a promoter. He understands the business. As Ricky Morton said, it's all about putting asses in seats, and JB does that. Not just for him, but for the wrestlers and the promotion itself. Do you take pride in that yourself, that you really just push it out there? And again, I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm pointing fingers. More than the wrestlers do sometimes?
Well, I like that. I try to put as much out there as I can. I've done the whole on the ground work, putting flyers out before, and then I've got like the social media. I put it on Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Discord. Also, I put it in servers and but I just try to do as much as humanly possible. Whether because I've seen a lot of wrestlers. They have their stuff. The videos and all that, which is great. And so I just try to pretty much I just try to put everything out there as much as I can. Rather, like everyone else could be putting 100 videos out, and I'll still put as much as I can out as well.
Right. Because in wrestling, in general, it's a family. You all want to take care of each other. Again, I'll go back to Ricky Morton. More asses in the seats, more money for everybody all the way around.
Yep, it's professional wrestling. We're all in this together.
JB, did I miss anything that you wanted to bring up or talk about or anything like that?
No, not really, I don't believe.
All right. I want to thank you for spending some time with us here today on Can Crushers. It was a blast. I'd love, once you get that first manager gig, you better be sending me a message. I want to get the feels. I want to know everything that's going on. We'll follow you on the socials to see where you're going to do it and everything. Phone's always open, buddy. Reach out. I had a blast today.
Yep, me too. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was J.B. Stevens, announcer, commentator, jack of all trades in independent wrestling. What a story. What a story about, and again, it's the same story. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be a professional wrestler, but I knew that I could be my hero, Tony Schiavone. I love Tony Schiavone. So I always wanted to follow his path. And, go back and look at Tony. He did professional wrestling, then he did minor league baseball, now he's back in professional wrestling. Essentially did the same thing. I did baseball, wrestling, so I love it. And I love that JB is kind of getting his roots set as the announcer, as the commentator, and getting, I feel it's going to be huge. This huge announcer heel turn into a manager to grab a wrestler from somewhere, or the faction that I made him grab and put together for the Stevens family. Yeah, I love that. So young. He's so young, but the history of professional wrestling in this young man's noggin is unbelievable. All the way back to the 1900s. Gary Hart. How many times do we hear Gary Hart as a manager that people kind of got some inspiration from? So you know that he knows, because world-class Gary Hart was unbelievable. I loved him. And he brought up AWA. You don't hear AWA from kids a lot, so this kid has put in his due diligence. He's done his work, and I'm so proud of him for everything that he does. So keep an eye on JB Stevens as announcing right now, but I just feel this manager role for JB is going to take off. And stop calling him Barney or Harry Potter or anything like that. Stop. We knew Mark was going to bring it up. Myself speaking in third person right now. We knew I was going to bring it up, but listen, everybody's got to look at Johnny Polo. He looked like Barney once in a while. If you don't know who Johnny Polo is, go up and look. It was Raven's second life, essentially. Follow JB Stevens on all the socials. Watch what he's doing. If you're in and around his area, support Indy wrestling, support your announcers, your referees, everything, because it's a family, as JB says. We're all trying to do better for the wrestling community. Guys, I had a great interview. I'm so proud to say that I interviewed JB Stevens. Again, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. We're out there. Wherever you're listening to this now, we're on every other platform. If you would like to be on Can Crushers, reach out at cancrusher69@gmail.com, the old-fashioned way of email, or we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check us all out. Drop us a DM. We'll get you something scheduled up, and we'll have a great time. Tell your story. Let's hear why you got into wrestling. Let's hear your goals. Let's just bounce back and forth and talk wrestling in general. Guys, I love this show. I do. This is my passion. This is everything, because as I talked to JB a little bit after, everybody knows the big guys. Let's give love to the indies and the little guys out there that are pushing and saying, hey, this is somebody to watch. This is somebody to watch. So, yeah. Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.